LAZ, make sure you check out that top 50 St. Laz stories and interviews playlist. You heard? It's heavy. The numbers is heavy on that. If you serious out there about starting your own YouTube channel and you need watch time, subscribers, and views to get monetized, get at me. I got exclusive content for lease that you could use to build up your channel. DM me on Instagram at RealSaintLaz or send me an email at thegenpopllc@gmail.com.
Demencio was the first dude that took you out of town?
Yeah, he the first one. He took me to Baltimore. Yeah, he took me to Baltimore, Mencio. He ain't tell me nothing. One day he just said, yo, what you doing? I said, I ain't doing nothing, man. He said, get in the car. Yeah, a couple of other dudes in the car with him. I got in the car with him. We drive. I said, where we going? He said, we going to Baltimore. I said, all right. We stopped on Delancey Street. We had to stop.
Shout out to the bro Black Knowledge, Brooklyn legend, Brooklyn icon. You heard? This is only the introduction, because we got big things in the works. You heard? Shout out to the whole Brownsville, the whole Bed-Stuy, the whole Sumner projects. You heard? The whole Marcy Tompkins, the whole style, man. Roosevelt. We in here.
Facts. It all started for me right there in Sumner projects, homie. It all started for me right there, SP. Let's start with Biggie, right? Because we from Brooklyn, so we gonna talk our Brooklyn shit. But if we start with Biggie, when Biggie first came out, right, on his grind and the way he was struggling, Biggie was loved and admired, bro. But as soon as he started reaching certain levels of success that people perceived, he might not have even been all the way where people perceived him to be, homie. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's remnants of slavery, how we was taught to hate ourselves or whatever, or hate our peoples, or the crab and the barrel theory. We don't want to see nobody get a bum or a head without us being there with them. We start hating, homie. That's what that is. It's envy because other people say, damn, that should be me. Why is that him and not me? I rap, I'm nice, I'm good. So like, the hate and shit that you receive, a lot of times you can brush it off because you have knowledge of what it stems from. People are programmed, right, to, I believe, to admire, respect, and appreciate until you get to a certain level. And then once you get to a certain level and they see you living lavishly or perceive you to be living lavishly, the admiration changes from that to envy. Why? How? Bro, I don't know. Maybe you could get some psychologists on your joints and that have done studies on these things, because I'm quite sure they have. But this is the jewel that I'm telling you.
That's deep that you say that, man, because Biggie seemed to be happy before he really blew up crazily. After he blew up crazily and got that big level fame, he seemed to be a little bit unhappy, man.
More money, more problems, homie. They said that. Listen, a lot of people that's, these rappers, these artists or whatever, I have a lot of respect for artists that, because they telling their life stories and they telling, musically, they telling stories from their perspective, or maybe having gone through things or have seen others go through things or whatever, and they have those abilities to put that in poem or musical form for the enjoyment of others. But it becomes stressful. Success, bro. It's success. It's stressful, homie. Success. So it doesn't make a difference whether you're an artist, a commentator, a cinematographer. Once you reach certain levels of success, it tends to become stressful, because now you have to hang the arms. You have to, that was my man. We came up from the sandbox together. Put me on and help me out. Damn, my nigga, I'm not even on. I'm still striving and struggling and trying to make progressions. But that's just the nature of our people. So until we realize what we're doing and understand what we're doing and figure out ways to diminish that envy and that ill will or ill feelings that we have towards people that are successful, then you gonna have those, bro. So let me see, who said it best? I think not best, but who said something really cool? I think it was a comedian. Matter of fact, it was Cat Williams. When he did, I think, one of his first stand-up joints that really blew up about the haters, and he was like, if somebody got some haters and they want to send them my way, send them to me. He was looking for as many haters that he could find, because he knew that the more haters he got, I guess he felt the more successful he knew he was becoming, bro. So look at it like that. All of them cats coming up, if you feel they making stories up about you and not being honest and trying to drag you through the mud and all that, listen, fuck all that, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. Focus on that, because here's what happens. If you let those detractors distract you, you're no longer going to be relevant in what you're doing, homie, and in what you're trying to present to the people. You and I, outside of recording conversations, whatever, when we talk personally, we be building about real shit. And individuals will never get these stories and these jewels and these nuggets of this information if you let the detractors distract you. Because what's going to happen? Words get exchanged, more words get exchanged, more words get exchanged. Certain type of individuals tend to take it to the next level, So now you out and about, and you got to have him with you, because shit is real. Everything is real. I mean, none of this shit is fantasy, fallacy, made up. Everything is real. So individuals are held accountable for what they say out their mouth. Individuals are held accountable for what they do. Individuals are held accountable for how they move. So my jewel to you is, don't get distracted by all that, homie. Keep doing what you're doing, so that you won't have to jeopardize your platform for possibly having to do something to somebody, or somebody do something to you over these words, bro. Fuck all that. Keep doing what you're doing, homie. But all right, let's talk about some shit. What we talking about?
Who introduced you to crime?
It wouldn't have been any particular individual. It would have been my observation of game. I'm an observer first. That's why they call me knowledge. That's what knowledge means: to know, look, listen, observe, to respect. So I'm an observer. I'm an observer of my surroundings. I've always kept my head on a swivel and paid attention to my complete entire surroundings at all times. So in doing so, I saw things, and some of the things that I saw intrigued me more so than other things. So I said, okay, damn, fast cars over there, shiny jewelry, attention, admiration, adulation from peers, respect, fear. Damn. Now, I mean, I want some of that. We was in that concrete jungle, bro, where the lion was supposedly the most feared and revered. You know what I mean? So I wanted to be the lion. Damn sure wasn't no deer. I wasn't bait. I wasn't one of the animals that was going to be getting chased and eaten. Safer. Not me. Not Black Knowledge. I wanted to eat, homie. I wanted to do the eating. So what influenced me was seeing other individuals do it, right? And then my young mind formulating what they're doing and saying to myself, I could do that. That shit they doing don't look like rocket science. I could do that. And I think I could do it better than them.
You was noticing those fast cars and that jewelry and that fear and respect. How old you think you was at that time?
12, 13, probably younger than that, homie. Probably younger than that, because we notice those things in the hoods, because you're going to notice what you see every day and what's around you. So I grew up in the hoods of Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn. I grew up in impoverished neighborhoods, what was referred to as, poverty-stricken homes or whatever, ghetto out there, for the lack of a better word, the ghetto. So, in growing up in those environments, you see things and you say, damn, I know it's better out there, because you see it, right? So that's where the influence of television and movies and all that other shit comes in. You see these grandiose lifestyles of other individuals, and then you start, in your young mind, you start comparing it to your lifestyle. You're like, hold the fuck up. Something wrong with this picture. How can they do that? And how can they live like that? And how can they afford to get all of those things? And I can't. So then you start figuring things out and say, hold on, all right, well, they had to start from somewhere. And then you get you figure things out. But while you figuring things out and growing up, you have peers, right? You have individuals. So now you amongst your peers, your individuals, and you guys are exchanging information and ideas, and then that's how things get formulated. Like nowadays, I guess they would probably call that's like how conspiracies in the court of law came about. Oh, you guys conspired and sat down and said we're gonna do this and do that or whatever. But that's how it. For me, that's how it started. Seeing better than what I had and aspiring and wanting that.
And this was in Sumner?
Facts. It all started for me right there in Sumner Projects, homie. It all started for me right there, SP.
And what years was this, like when you was 12, 13?
This would have been in the late 70s, like, you know what I mean? So this would have been to the late 70s, early 80s, like 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. So like I'm seeing these things. I'm in Brooklyn. I'm running around. I'm, building my character, understanding my surroundings, understanding how to maneuver within my surroundings, understanding who I am, and realizing my potential. Like, yo, this shit ain't hard, bro. And then it basically having a group of individuals that wanted the same things that I wanted, aspired for, and towards the same things that I aspired towards. And so when we get in person and face to face, this is where you're gonna really get the histories of the hoods where I came from. So my interactions was Sumner, right? Because that's where I'm from. I moved to Sumner when I was like, my mother moved there when I was like, 4 or 5 years old. So I was entrenched in Sumner since the age of maybe 4 or 5. And then in the outskirts of Sumner, we had Tompkins, Marcy, Bushwick, Roosevelt, Borinquen, Williamsburg. Further down, we had LG, Fort Greene, Farragut, and then going up we had Crown Heights, East New York, Brownsville, and the like. So, encompassing all of that Brooklyn, when we really get into it, I'm gonna show you how it all intertwined, bro. How at various points in times we were interconnected with each other, all those different neighborhoods that I mentioned, and then there's individuals from those neighborhoods. Some I'll mention, some I won't. But I'll show you, I'll be able to paint a better picture, a vivid picture for you of how individuals from different neighborhoods connect. You know what I mean? Because of the commonality of being poor and the not haves, and wanting better than being poor and not having. We wanted success. You know what I mean? We wanted fortune. We wanted, we wanted a better life. So so in that story lies everything, homie. Within that story lies everything. The trials, the tribulations, the journeys, the ups, the downs, the pitfalls, those that made it, those that didn't make it, those that fell to the wayside, those that told, and all that's in there, homie. That encompasses, it's all encompassed in there, homie. It's all in there. So like I said, when we briefly touching on things now, but when I sit down and we look each other eye to eye and we go through some of the stories, and I'm quite sure when I talk about certain things, I'm quite sure you've heard numerous stories. You probably heard stories about me. I don't know.
I'm coming for the official story behind the rumor that dudes in Sumner was knocking out police and taking their guns. I'm coming for that.
We're gonna get to that. We can address that. Yeah, we can address that. One of my homies told me this. Matter of fact, it was who was it told me? Matter of fact, it was Tracy Morgan. Tracy told me at one time. He said, "Yo, nah, bro, you a real dude and you deal with a lot of fact, right? But a lot of times, the fiction is more entertaining and better than the fact. People want to hear the facts, right? But they want to hear an embellishment of those facts. You know and understand what embellishment means. So, that's like you taking a story and then you taking it from a 2 and putting a fucking 10 on that 2 and turning it into a 12. It started as a 2. It was a good story as a 2, but other people have other ideas and they run with it, and it'll be from this happened with these individuals or officers to niggas jumped off the roof, right, opened the parachute, swan dived on top of the police head, scooped him off, took the gun. Yeah, bro, you know how the hood is, bro. Everybody loves a good tale. That's from our ancestry in Africa, bro, when dudes used to sit down and tell them stories. So that's embedded in us. That's how dudes are great artists. That's how some guys are really good in their artistry, because they have that ability in them to tell a great story, whether it's a yarn, you know what I mean, or whether it's a factual joint. So yeah, it's a like I said, I'm gonna bring truth to some of the yarns or some of the embellishments, and I'm gonna bring it back down to size, so you could get a better factual picture of how it really went down versus how the legend grew of it. You know what I mean? How it grew to become a legend. But sometimes some people say, leave the legend alone, homie. Let the legend flourish and let it do that, So those are things we'll discuss, homie, and along the way we'll figure it out. But I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you, sitting down face to face, because, like I said, I want to talk about everything. So it's not just the crime in the streets. We're gonna start there, homie, but that's not where we're gonna end. That's definitely not where we're gonna end, because that's not where my story ends. You dig? That's a part of it. It's a big, major part of it, which helped to create who I was and who I became. But that's not the end of the story. So far, right now, I can't even tell you the end of the story. I'm still here, and I'm still doing what I'm doing to make this story continuously develop. But that's why I want to cover a lot of different topics, because I see a lot, homie. I see a lot. I listen to a lot. I observe a lot, and I stay shut, right? And one of the conversations that you and I had behind the scenes, I didn't get no sleep that night, homie, after that conversation, because what you said was so poignant to me and it resonated in me so deeply that I had to dig deep down inside and say, yo, homie, that little young brother St. Lance, he was right about that. What you gonna do? Die with all this information? You gonna die, take these stories, some of these stories that are relevant, so relevant that they might be able to uplift to help other people. You're gonna be so stingy with that information that you take it with you to the grave, homie, and never let it grow wings and see what it could become. I heard you, homie. Just to let you know, I'm gonna give you your flowers on that right now. I heard you, and I agree to some extent. So that's why we're gonna be able to have the conversations that we're going to be able to have, and then it'll develop into whatever it develops into, homie. But all you're gonna get from me is honesty and realism from my perspective. Nothing that I'm ever going to tell you is going to be from anybody else's perspective but from myself. You get it, homie? I mean, I've been influenced maybe by the people that I've encountered and came across in my life or whatever, but at the end of the day, ultimately what you're going to get from me is my perspective and how I drew things up and how I came to understand things the way that I understand it. And hopefully you will appreciate it, and when it gets put out or however you do it, it's for something that's positive. My thing is, I don't want to have conversations and it's about negativity and rehashing old shit and old wounds and
this about healing and therapy, man. We ain't on here trying to start no trouble. We ain't on here trying to drag nobody name through the mud. You understand what I'm saying? Tarnish people's reputations. We ain't doing none of that. We just telling the history.
We're not doing none of that, homie, but everybody's truths are different. So my truth might be somewhat hard to stomach in some instances and in some situations. So by me telling you this, I'm telling you and I'm putting it out there and I'm taking my stance that when I tell my truth, it is what it is. So if it offends some, it's not my intention. I'm only telling my truth. But I don't back down from nobody. You know what I mean? And I don't duck no wreck. And I don't deny no history with respect to me bringing out my truth. Like I said, some things are going to stay where they stay. But the things that I do bring out and the things that I do speak on, know that I stand on everything that I say. You dig, homie? So you ain't never got to worry about any flip-flopping or any funny shit with knowledge. Like, yo, is he? No, anything I say out my mouth, homie, I stand on it. I stand on it. You dig? And when I say I stand on it, that's a lot, because a lot comes with standing on something. You dig? Because, you know, so that could be left there. But I stand on everything I say out my mouth, homie. So just to put that out there before we, you know what I mean, proceed. So you ain't got to feel like, oh, well, homie, I don't want to, whatever you ask, I'll tell you now, homie, I'm not going to go down that road. But if I do decide to go down that road, no. I believe that everything I tell you, I stand on it.
Who ran your projects before you ran your projects?
Oh, that's an easy one. The dudes that we looked up to, dudes in my generation, in my sect, the dudes that we looked up to and that we idolized as the gangsters from the projects and who taught us how to rep for the hood. Yo, you from Sumner, this is how we rep Sumner and all that. Right, I got a nice few names for you, homie, but we gonna save that for the face to face. You know, you gotta tantalize them. You can't give them everything, left. You can't give them everything. But yeah, it was definitely some individuals that came before me. And when I mention these individuals are widely known within the boroughs of New York City, widely known within the correctional facilities of New York City, and the correctional facilities of New York State, and you know the city county facilities, Rikers Island, and all that. So these individuals that used to sit me down and talk to me and give me the game, and dudes that I used to watch and idolize and want to be like. When I mention some of them, I'm gonna check with them first and let them know, just to get the okay, because I would never want to, you know, put somebody out there in especially those that are still living. I'm only referring to the living cats. The cats that are no longer here, that so they can't tell me yay or nay because they're not here. So I'll just use my discretion, my judgment on whether or not, you know, I name drop those individuals. But the individuals that are still alive and you know, well, out of respect, the way I was brought up, I would check with them first. Yo, homie, you was an influence in my life. At this point, I'm doing this with the homie over here. We discussed some things. Would you mind? So what I'm telling you and what I'm teaching you right now, homie, is called protocol. A lot of dudes don't understand protocol. That's why situations happen, because people don't understand protocol and simple common courtesies. A lot of things could be avoided if people understood simple common courtesies, dealt with a little bit of respect, and followed somewhat of a protocol. Protocols don't exist now, homie. Everything goes. More things for us to discuss when we see each other. But I'm not from that era where every and anything goes, homie. I follow protocol. I was schooled by some of the greats. So we gonna talk about it. You know, not to glorify stuff, not to be trying to relive stuff, but just to like you said, tell a story so that hopefully somebody can hear the story, view it, and can relate to it and say, damn, that's how homie and them did it over there. Okay, so I like the way they did that. Let me take that and run with that and add my own spin to it and spiel to it and make it better and hopefully be successful in what I'm doing over here. For me, that's what it's about, homie. That's what building means. You know what I mean? That's how we gonna build and add on. That's my intentions and that's my objective with blessing you and enlightening you with the stories and the information that I have, all for positive use only. You dig?
That's a fact.
I got a 14-year-old male son, that I'm raising. So I want to impart information to him that would make him knowledgeable and comfortable and confident to proceed through life in various types of different situations. Don't just take for face value what you see or hear or read about someone else and say, oh, whoa, the trend is not to do that way because that's not perceived as cool. Or I can't let another man know that I respect his movements or respect what he's doing or appreciate what he's doing or acknowledge what he's doing because that's going to be considered me riding him. Like, that's the most goofiest shit I ever heard in my fucking life.
Yeah,
bro.
that's-
That shit is the most goofiest shit. And I try to be as humble as I can in any situation because, like I said, I told you in the beginning, like I stand on the things that I say and my reputation, right? And how I perceive and how I put myself out there means everything to me because it's what I know, right? So a lot of times, like I remember an incident where I think it was in it might have been like 1992. I was in Kagsaki. I just came from Southport. I did a few years in the box. I had 4 years in the box, and I think I did about 18 months. Got a time cut, reversal, whatever. They sent me to the cat. When I got to the cat, they put me in long-term keep lock. I think I had about another 30, 60 days to do. So they put me in long-term keep lock. So when I was in long-term keep lock, I was on the gallery, and I was on the gallery. You know, there's cats from all over, Brooklyn, whatever. There was some Harlem cats, some Bronx cats, whatever. And I think it was this cat. I believe his name was Caviar. I can't remember. I think his name was Caviar, whatever. But something like that. But he was from Harlem, and young boy, right? But young cat. I had about 5, 6 years in during my bid at that time. He was a younger dude just coming up top. He was in long-term key lock, probably touching something, doing, putting whatever work in. And he was like, yo, he called me to the gate one day. He was like, yo, Steve, yo, you knowledge? Your name knowledge? You black knowledge? Like black knowledge from Summer? I'm like, yeah, wow, what's up? Who asked me? He like, nah, man, he just was just staring at me through the gate, and he was just like at a loss for words, like he was just like trying to express. So I'm like, yo, homie, what's up? Spit it out, like what's on your mind? He was like, nah, man, like you not what I expected. So I was taken back a little bit. I was like, I'm confused. What you mean? I'm not what you expected. I don't even know you. He was like, no, not for that. He said, I heard so much about you, and the stuff that I heard about you, I expected you to be about 6'10", with muscles out your neck, 1,000 scars on your face, stab wounds everywhere, and just this wild, big, aggressive like monster. He said because the way they speak about you and the way they talk about you with respect to when you got to go in, it's like a monster. But when I see you in person and I speak to you, you're like the most humblest, coolest, quiet, laid-back dude I've ever met. So he said that it's weird that to see somebody that people speak so highly about in one way, and then when you meet him, you get a totally different perspective. And I've gotten that so much in my life that it sometimes it's amazing to me. I'm like, that's weird, because I only know myself to be myself, right? I don't look at myself as this grandiose individual, this big person, or this super character or whatever. I just look at myself as being myself. I'm knowledge, you know what I mean? I'm real. I'm as real as I can be, and I personify that in everything that I do. But, with respect to some of the things that I've done, people that meet me, they be like, I ain't gonna hold you, homie. You kind of short too. You ain't what I thought. I was like, sometimes, homie, I don't even know how to take that. I'm like, I don't know, what does that mean, bro? It's like, so my thing is, and then what I usually tell dudes is that, okay, so the jewel in that is that everything isn't always as it seems or appears, and then a lot of times you don't believe everything you hear. You hear it, you take it into account, but then you do your own research and then you get to see. Because a lot of times, like I told you earlier, perception is different from reality. You dig? The perception of somebody might be this big monster, or this terrible person, or this notoriously bad person, but like you said, when you get to actually sit down and talk to some of these people, they be some of the coolest, realest, down to earth people that you come across, and that's what I strive to be, homie. Like,
And smartest dudes be thinking that dudes is criminals and they dumb. You get to know these dudes, you be like, yo, this dude is highly intelligent.
some of the best criminals that I've ever come across, some of the most notorious dudes that I've come across were extremely intelligent, bro. Extremely, so much so that they surprised me, like, oh shit. And but it surprised me, but it made me dig deeper into myself. Like, yo, boy, you got to start paying attention to the bigger picture. You know what I mean? It's the big picture. If this is the life you choose to be in this life of crime, in this street life or whatever, then you have to pay attention to all of the tangibles and the intangibles, the small shit, all the way up to the large shit. You know what I mean? Because it's a whole lot that makes it a big picture. It's just not a big picture. You know what I mean? It's things that, and more things and more things and more things that make that picture bigger. So, but it's a pleasure, bro, man. You know, you helped me to get a lot off my chest that I was building up and just holding in me all throughout 2022, man. 2023, man. My ideals are to let some of this out, man, and just, you know, be at peace with it and speak my truth, man.
You know that's
You know,
what
I
they
wanna
call me now, right? That's what they call me.
talk.
They call me the hood therapist. Know what I mean? But real talk, bro, that's what this really is, man. It's therapy for all of us, man. Like, we all gotta get shit off of our chest. And by us getting this shit off our chest, younger dudes hear those stories and realize that they're not the only ones that went through this
Going
shit.
through things, that's a whole fact, homie. People have. That's why I wanted to do it, because I wanted to be able to tell a story and someone say, "Yo, I relate to that story so much," and it helped me, bro. It helped me, yo, bro. Listen, from a person that's been there, you know what I mean, spent several years there of my life, bro. Prison is a blessing and a curse, bro. Prison is at times one of the worst fucking places on earth to be, bro. Separated from your loved ones, your family, people telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You know, that in and of itself, bro. Prison, you would have material, endless, infinite material if you wanted to just explore that, because a lot of times people are afraid to talk about their experiences in their life in prison for for whatever reasons, backlash, or whether it's traumatizing and they would rather just move on and not relive that type of stuff. I don't know, homie. I can't speak for nobody other than myself, but for myself, bro, some of those times, you know, were so trying and stressful that you wonder if you're gonna make it out with your sanity, bro. You wonder if you're gonna make it out with your life. You know what I mean, homie? You wonder if you go, because everybody that go in behind the walls and have those type of experiences, encounters, they don't make it out. And if they do make it out, some people don't be the same. I have countless stories of individuals that went in behind those walls. I got a base that went in behind those walls and didn't come out the same, bro. And it's a tragedy. And it's a travesty what they do to our people, bro, and what we're subjected to. But the resilience of the black man is legend. That's, you want to speak about legend. The resiliency of our people is legend in and of itself, you know, to be able to make the best of traumatizing situations, to make the best of not having, to be able to make fucking sugar out of shit. You know what I mean? Metaphorically, bro, is speaking a lot to the legend and the resiliency of our people, bro. And you know, those are some of the other things that I want to address and talk about, so that when the young youth hear this shit, bro, they can get an understanding. I'm gonna take them through the life of crime, what got me there, my choice that I made, or whatever. But I'm gonna also let them know that there's other choices that you could do. There's an other side to that, bro. There's a flip side to every coin, so it's not always it's not one-sided, bro.
It's very deep what you just said when you said we talking about the resilience of our people, like how strong our people are, and it's like, bro, that's a reason why I put out these jail stories. Like, dudes don't understand. Like, some dudes may say, oh, you just glorifying jail and violence. What I'm really doing with this is I'm putting out shocking. I want people out there that's not from this life and not from where we from to hear shit like that and be shocked. Because you should be shocked that this is what our people go through. You understand where you gotta go through Rikers Island and stab and cut niggas for your sneakers. You feel what I'm saying? And pop off in the mess hall and cut this nigga in. You know what I mean? You gotta go up and go gun to gun with a nigga in the yard. Bro, this shit is part of the black experience.
That's a fact.
A lot of black people gotta go through this shit.
It's sad because that's a reality. That's a reality that us as black people have to face, and nobody, homie, can take that away from us. And that's what I'm saying. Black people don't know how to tap into their inner power because they don't realize they have it. And when we build it, homie, I'm gonna let them know that they have it, and I'm gonna show them how to tap into it when they need to. You know what I mean? And if they have to, tap into your inner fucking demon if you must. Tap into your inner God if you have to. Tap into your inner beast if you have to, homie, because you're trying to survive. You're trying to survive. And you trying to survive, and you trying to make the best life for yourself. But when tapping into these things and all that, let's also understand that there should be some rules of engagement, son. Let's also understand that there should be some codes of conduct with respect to this. And that's what we got lost with, homie. So that's how the fuck dudes are able to be ahead of the real dudes in this day and age. And it's mind-boggling and baffling to me. So that's why I stick to, you know what I mean, the things that I stick to, and I steer clear of the things that I steer clear of, because I feel like I'm in a time zone or another element or another existence. Like, sometimes I wake up like, what the fuck is going on? Who the fuck is these niggas? Like, who are these people? When I say niggas, I mean in general, blacks, whites, hey, whatever. Who the fuck are these people? And where do they come from? And how do they have so much vast influence over the masses of people, bro? How? How is it like that? So those are things that plague my mind, and those are some of the things that I go through because I'm trying to get to solutions and answers to some of these questions. Like, damn, man, can we change this shit and get it back to a realm of I can't even say normalcy, but a realm of that's relegated, regarded, and respected? Boy, look at the trend. These are some of the things we could discuss too. Look at the transition of what we started musically, with respect to hip hop. Look where it started, how it began, and look where it's at now. Not to say one is necessarily better than the other, but we don't control it in terms of how it's marketed and how it's put out there. So we kind of follow the narrative. If the narrative is destructive music, misogyny, disrespect the black woman, disrespect the other black man, start beefs, kill this motherfucker if he says something that you don't like, whatever. How the fuck did we get
It ain't
to
never
all
been
that?
this bad. It ain't never been this bad. This the worst it ever been.
Listen to me, bro. How the fuck did we get there, homie? That's what plagues me at night. How the fuck did we get there? What happened to the positive, to the messages, and to the knowledge and information that motherfuckers used to drop to help enlighten you and to uplift you out of those situations? They stopped promoting that, homie. And when I say they, who the fuck is they? Right? Who's they?
It's facts, man. It's
Who's
facts,
they?
bro.
That controls our narrative. That controls We create this shit. We come up with this shit. We spit this shit from within us, from what we been through, what we've seen, and what we've lived, and then another person can come in and reshape these narratives and reshape our words and our experiences, put it to their own likings, and say, okay, this content we don't want you to include. Take that out. Put this in here. Emphasize that and go ahead and get crazy, and we'll make sure you get a shitload of money. So at the end of the day, homie, what we doing is for the money? Is everything about the money?
Man, that music, the music that's out now, I ain't gonna act like it wasn't no hardcore kill 'em up stuff in my era, you feel me? Because we had our gangster rap and all of that too, but it's different now. Now it's different. It's like, you know, if you ain't shooting to kill a op and popping some motherfucking pills, you just not in the loop. You feel what I'm saying? Like, this shit is the most decadent this culture has ever been. I tuned out totally. I don't know who none of these niggas is.
How can we counteract some of this goofy shit, bro? We have to learn how to get back in tune with ourselves, bro, and in our innate abilities to be fucking independent builders, because we built the pyramids, didn't we? According to history, we built the pyramids. We were aesthetics and super builders and thinkers and great thinkers and theologists and architects and things of that nature. So how did we go from that to the state of being that we're in, and then how can we start reversing the state of being that we're in to that which we once was and beyond?
Yeah, you
Those
know,
are my questions, homie.
I can't remember what book I read this in, but it was a crazy analogy about the human race. And, you know, I apply this analogy. I have to apply this analogy to what's going on with hip hop and the music and all of that, because it's the only way it makes sense. Otherwise, it just don't make sense to me. But I would, you know, they say a caterpillar, when a caterpillar is alive, you know, it's one of the most creepy, repulsive bugs. People hate them, and all they do is eat the leaves and ruin trees. And farmers hate caterpillars because they just seem to never stop eating. You understand? Like, why do they eat so much? Kill them off, you feel me? But the reality is, in science, when we look into it, caterpillars only evolve into butterflies when they have a certain amount of nutrients in them from all of the leaves that they eat. If they don't eat enough leaves, they will go into a cocoon and they'll never turn to a butterfly. They'll just die because they didn't have the right vitamins and nutrients from the leaves. They didn't eat enough. So even though caterpillars are repulsive, ugly, and annoying, sometimes they just doing what they gotta do to get to that next stage and evolve to the butterfly. So I look at this hip hop shit was going on, you know, we went through the mumble rap phase, then the drill rap phase and all of that, and we looking at it like, what the fuck is going on? What happened to hip hop? I just gotta say that it has to be at the stage where it's gonna soon evolve into that butterfly, and you know, some type of message is gonna come back through the music that's gonna wipe out all of this bullshit. You heard?
That's a, you know, I like the way you look at that. And that's a creative way to look at it. I like that.
Allah will come take the devil off our planet in one day. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
shout out to the God Black Knowledge, one of the most legendary Brooklyn entities that ever walked Brooklyn soil. You heard we doing this new series called the Sumner series. You feel me? Where we gonna break down the history of Sumner projects, which is gonna include a lot of Brooklyn history that you never knew about, that you may have heard bits and pieces of, but now we hearing it from the horse's mouth. You heard? So shout out to the whole Bed-Stuy, shout out to the whole Brooklyn. You heard? Shout out to them 80s boys, them boys that came up in the 80s. You heard? That made the blueprint for the streets for the next 20, 30 years afterwards. You feel what I'm saying? We don't know enough about them. Y'all young boys out there, y'all don't know enough about them.
for now, we're gonna hold off on the Jay-Z. We're gonna hold off on the Tracy Morgan joint. We're gonna get into it, right? We're gonna blend into it. I can give you the story of what really, really got my name resonating and really, really made dudes from all around take notice of me on the hammer work. You know what I mean? And that transpired through some of the Bushwick Wars. You know what I mean? The wars that we had with the dudes from Bushwick Projects when we was in Eastern District.
What year you talking about that was, like with the Bushwick stuff, Bushwick Projects?
Like 83, 84, 85 was would have been around that time would have been the Sumner Bushwick Wars. Because we was in Eastern District. We was from Sumner, and we used to walk to school to Eastern District, just getting the news before we get into the actual point. And we had to come through Bushwick Projects to get to Eastern District. And we used to walk through the projects. We was wild, rowdy. You know what I mean? We go through this sometimes violating, drunk and shit, hollering at their girls. That was the main thing. How a lot of this shit started. The fact that we was bagging they shorties. One of the little mans was talking to one of the bros that one of the major dudes from Bushwick at the time probably had a crush on him, like whatever. One thing led to a couple of fights, broke out back and forth or whatever, and then it elevated from the fighting to the hammers. So right. So that would have been like 83, 84. Or between 83 to 85, something like that.
Dudes was blaming at each other after school or something?
Sometimes it didn't make it to after school. Only we had to walk through there to get to school. So if you know what I mean, and walking through there, some of the niggas. All right, so before we even get to before we got to guns, all right. So look, okay, so we could do it like this. In putting it in perspective, in maybe 83. Right into the early part of 84, it probably wasn't no hammers involved. It was probably just fights, raises and shit, you know what I mean? Big group fights, whatever. But when the guns came in around, it would have had to have been around 84, 85. When the guns came in to the situation, that's when it really upped. And it upped so much to the point where how I really got the situation jumping and resonating with my name ringing was, it involved a Tech 9, a ninja suit, and a tree. You know what I mean? A 36-shot Tech. I keep saying 36. I'm thinking of something else. A ninja suit, a tree. My man, he had the 30 gauge, the 30 shotgun, and a couple other cats. They had a couple hammers, and we went there. Did what we did, I climbed up in the tree and sat in the tree with the Tech 9 with the ninja suit on for 3-4 hours waiting on niggas. And when it came, jumped out that tree with that Tech spitting in that ninja suit. And that did it for me in Brooklyn. From that point on, my shit shot through the roof. From that beef, from that one episode, they just like, yo, I heard the nigga swung down the vine. There wasn't no vines and all that. It was obviously, that's how I tell you about the embellishment. I was able to climb up to the first few branches, which had the leaves and all that, and I linked up against that, and I just stood there, in the tree, blended in with the all black ninja suit and the black 5211 Reeboks. It's facts.
And what you mean? And you talking about in Sumner and they was coming through Sumner?
No, we went into their projects. We went into Bushwick, and I knew where they was at and where they would come from. So we had this thing where we would lay and wait on these for days, hours, whatever, in under cars, in parked cars, stolen cars, hiding, and we would wait until we saw the target, and then we did what we did. But on this particular night, I was furious, and I'm going to tell you a story of what made me so furious and what made me say, all bets was off. We getting crazy now. And Crazy was climbing up into that tree with that ninja suit on in Bushwick, in their projects, climbing in a tree, hiding in a tree with the Tech 9. My man had the 30 gauge shotgun hiding behind the van bench because he was too fat and he couldn't climb the tree. He wasn't trying to climb the tree with the 30 gauge shotgun. Yeah. And all niggas, it was nothing but fire coming from that tree. And I jumped, and I jumped down. Fell jump, I jumped, fell. I'm gonna tell it like I jumped, but I kind of fell a little bit too. But that thing was barking the whole way, and it was crazy. So, them niggas those dudes rather, even made the legend bigger because they was like, yo, a motherfucker jumped out the tree and all black with a monkey suit on with a machine gun spitting. It wasn't a machine gun. It was a Tech 9. You know how them shits was infamous for jamming. And I kept full. I always kept, because we was always taught, don't empty, always keep some for the runoff in case you get in a tight situation with superheroes trying to follow you or the boys box you in, you shooting your way out. It's right. So from that point on, it was like, whoever that little black nigga is, that nigga's out of control. We jumping out of trees on niggas with smoking machine gun. But you know how the story gonna go is how the story going. But I'm just giving you the backdrop.
And what you said was it that had you so furious that you went up in that tree?
What happened was, so I'm telling you, son, all of this shit is so much. This shit is so actual fact in real life that it would sound unreal and it would sound fake, like it was a movie. So what happened was, I told you we was going back and forth with these dudes, so we'll word it and get to it how we get to it for years. For like a year or two, going back and forth, fighting with these dudes, whatever. They got their hands on guns around the same time we got our hands on guns. So it was a couple instances where, some shootouts. We went down there shooting, boom, boom, boom. They came up to our projects, shooting, boom, boom, boom. So one day we was on Sumner Avenue. But they renamed it Marcus Garvey, but we always gonna call it Sumner Ave. We was on Sumner Ave, going to a Chinese restaurant. It was me and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other dudes. And we was going in the restaurant, and one dude was like, yo, there go them Bushwick niggas right there in the car. So we going in the restaurant, and me and my homie, the same homie that I'm talking about, is so relevant in all my life stories. But then, bro, you gonna see why that this dude was the way he was. And this is the same dude that with the situation with Jay-Z, and this is the same dude with the situation with Tracy Morgan, and this is the same dude with a lot of other situations. This dude was a serial killer, bro. There's no other way to put it. Like, that was him. So, he had a joint. He was the only, I didn't have my gun on me. He had a joint, a little Trey Deuce. Like I don't know how many shots in, but it was a Trey Deuce. It was a pat. It wasn't none of the big shit that we used to have because we was in the projects and we just went up to the Ave to get some Chinese food. We spotted the niggas in the car. Our man told us, so we looked at each other. I'm like, yo, boy, what you want to do? Like, you got the joint on you? He like, yeah. I'm like, yo, let's go get the niggas. So, boom. Long story short, we jumped in the car, chased them. They turned down DeKalb Avenue. This is where it get gangster. And everybody from that era will remember this story and remember that day. We in a stolen car. And we fall deep in the stolen. I'm driving. Our man got the joint. He in the passenger seat. We veering down on them dudes from Bushwick. They turned down DeKalb. We turned down DeKalb behind them. When they seen us speeding behind them coming, they probably didn't have no joints because they took off and was running. So it's the chase down DeKalb Avenue. Top speeds, 80, 90 miles an hour better, running red lights, swerving through traffic, and my man sitting. So imagine the window rolled down, right? The passenger window. He's outside the whole window, sitting. His ass is sitting on the window, on the door, where the window will roll up and down. That he's sitting on the door. He was left-handed, so it was perfect for him. And he's leaning over the top of the car, shooting at their car, the car in front of us, the Bushwick. He's blowing out the back windows. We going in, but they swerving and dipping and diving, and I'm swerving and dipping and diving, and I'm trying to crash him. And he had the little gun, but it was blowing out windows, but it wasn't the big shit. So we chasing these niggas all the way down DeKalb. He jumps back in the car, reloads, jumps back out the car. All this is in like broad day, something like midday. The chase down. We chased the niggas down DeKalb all the way to the precinct in LG. It's a precinct right across the street from LG Projects. They we chased him over, shooting at him and all that. He couldn't. I'm trying to, hit the tire, son. He's like, I can't. They keep swerving. I'm like, well, blow them niggas' heads off. And it was like, yo, you couldn't see nobody driving. It was like the car was driving by itself because nobody heads was showing, because the nigga knew that if his head was visible, it was getting taken off. So whoever that was driving, he got the wheel. That's a fact. Whoever that was driving, I still don't know to this day, whoever that was driving the niggas, he had the wheel because we couldn't see him, but I guess he had enough there. He could see what he was doing, and he made it swerving all the way down to the precinct. Them niggas, because the precinct is a one-way, Classen Avenue coming down. He turned up the one-way, and they crashed the car all into the precinct, jumped out the car and ran into the precinct. And we right there at the end where they turned off, and we still on decal yelling at them how much pussies they are, how much we gonna murder them, and bitch ass niggas run to the police. They can't save y'all, we murdering y'all, we fall out. And then the police came out, saw us, and we skirted off. When they tried to chase us, but we dipped on them and we was gone. But that was, so now after that, that must have enraged them so much that they looked so pussy with us chasing them down. I don't know how they did it, but they found out where I lived at, the building that I lived in. You know what I mean? They found out the building that I lived in and the floor that I lived on in that building. But they didn't know the door. They didn't know the door which was my apartment. So what they did was they wrote in magic markers throughout the entire first floor of the building, on every wall and by every door and all by the elevator and all by the stairs, talking about how they was gonna kill me. Now as we know where you live at, bitch ass nigga, when we catch you, we gonna kill you, and all sorts of goofy shit. And the wild shit was, I must have had just missed them dudes, because I came in on a late night that night, and when I came in and I saw all of that shit in the building, I can't even explain the feeling that came over me. One, it was a feeling of, damn, if I would have came in this building while they was writing that, I'm pretty sure that they was strapped up. They might have, it might have been a situation that I might not have been able to get out of, because they was in my building on the first floor. And if I would have unknowingly walked in the building without seeing them, they would have had the advantage and they could have did me dirty. That was one, right? The second thing was that, yo, man, my motherfucking moms live here. You know what I mean? And she see all of this shit and all my neighbors on the floor. You know what I mean? So I had my mom see the shit. She flipping out, yelling and raised and paranoid and scared. Oh, they gonna kill you. They know where you live and they gonna end up killing you and all this wild shit.
Paul himself, 1 second, bro. I gotta tell him to stop making so much noise. Hold on. So you said your mom's was paranoid, saying she thinking they gonna kill you and all of that?
Yeah, because she like, yo, they know where you live at now. They know where we live at. So, you know what I mean? You putting everybody in jeopardy and everybody in danger. And, I had one of them moms that, she was a young mother. She had me when she was like 18, 19. So growing up, you know what I mean? She was still, young and a little wild, a little bit of street. You know what I mean? That's some of where I got it from. And, she was like, yo, however you playing in these streets now is hitting too close to home, because now they waiting in your building for you. So now that was a no-no for me, because like I said, I wasn't feeling like I was Mr. Invincible, because I know that anybody could get it at any given time if the situation presents itself. Anybody could get it. The toughest motherfucker, can get it from the softest dude if he get caught lacking. So that right there took me over the edge in terms of, all right, now I'm gonna make a statement. You came right in my building and all that.
How many places you said they wrote that same shit on?
Yeah, 6 apartments or 7 apartments to each floor in my building. So they wrote, because they didn't know which one was mine, but they had the floor right though. So they wrote on every door, and they wrote on every wall space next to the doors, and they wrote on all the on the outside of the elevator, on the first floor, and on the inside of the elevator. And it was so I'm like, damn, it took them a while to write that.
Word. They had to be in there for like a half.
At least. minimum. But it was the late night because nobody said they seen them doing it, but they did it. You know what I mean? And again, my thoughts was, damn, I could have walked into an ambush, one. My mom's or something, you know what I mean? Or my brother, something could have been coming out the crib or something. Then they would have saw that and they could have, you know what I mean? They could have scored, 2. And then 3, that was just too close for comfort. So I said, all right, now we gonna turn up. And then, you know, that was and then from there, you know, I made history. And from that point on, motherfuckers was coming to check for black knowledge. Like, yo, the older cats, the older heads that was running the hoods and all that, like, yo, it's a little dude over there, young dude busting his gun crazy. He crazy with he jumping out of trees and flying cars, they hanging on. So the dude that I'm referring to, my name was Black Knowledge, his name was Knowledge B. They call him Charlie, but his name was Knowledge also. But it was Black Knowledge and Knowledge B. So it was always the 2 knowledges together doing shit. So a lot of the shit that he did, they would attribute to me and put it on me because they would just hear the name Knowledge and they would say, oh, that was Black Knowledge from Sumner. But sometimes it really wasn't. Knowledge B, Charlie, he was from Tompkins. But, you know, we were so close in proximity that they couldn't differentiate. So whenever they heard a story about Knowledge, they didn't say, oh, all the time, unless they actually saw us. They wouldn't say, yo, it was Black Knowledge or it was Knowledge B. It was just, yo, Knowledge did such and such, Knowledge did such and such. So a lot of times I was getting flack and getting in the wars and beefs over shit that I ain't had nothing to do with. I didn't do it. I know what I did, all of the shit that I did and the work I put in. But some of the shit that was coming at me was not me. Like with the situation with the home and all that shit. It's like, you know, yo, bro, I heard you won't know, bro. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I wouldn't have did that because of the affiliations with my little man's. I didn't do that. I didn't have nothing to do with that. But those is my niggas. Those is my peoples. Those is my homies. Those is the dudes that's on my team. So, you know, a lot of times I was able to address and straighten out some situations with respect to some of the things that my team of hitters was doing. You know what I mean? Because we was all able to check each other, you know, because there was nobody above anybody else. In my team of individuals, we all respected each other equally because we all was hitters. So we was all able to, you know, because we came up from the sandbox. So we was able to, we had a checks and balance system where we was able to check one another. If, you know what I mean? On the outside, on the face, we riding. But behind closed doors, we checking each other. So that, you know what I mean, for future situations or whatever, you know, we dudes will be able to move accordingly. But you got to be able to check your peoples, homie. Nobody's uncheckable. And that's what happens a lot of times where shit runs so rapid because nobody feels like they're in either a position to check somebody else or the people that needs to be checked feel like they're uncheckable. Nobody's uncheckable, homie. And you if you got dudes around you that can't tell you that your shit stink, homie, and you need to be checked, then you don't need those type of dudes around you. If you got a bunch of yes men around you, like you never know when you gonna never know when you slipping because you gonna think you always got the answers and you always know the right way because the people around you are fearful to let you know right now your shit is stinking, homie, and you out of pocket. You know, we didn't have that type of problems in my clique of individuals because, you know, we all checked each other privately, not publicly, privately. Publicly, we rode in any situation against whoever. But privately, we was like, damn, bro, you know, that's an unnecessary situation. You know, you shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have did that, whatever. But getting back to, you know, those are more stories. But getting back to that situation, like, you know, after them dudes wrote on my joint, you know, we had guns at the time. You know what I mean? I probably had a couple nines, a fifth, 357 long, had the Joker gun, the Batman Joker gun. Back then I had the 3-pound with the long 12-inch nose, shit, pulling that shit out. Little 15, 16-year-old dude, one of the biggest hammers in Brooklyn on the revolver tip. And so I felt that wasn't enough. You know what I mean? I said, nah, I need something like a street sweeper or something that I don't think they had them then, but my big homies them in Tompkins, they had Max and Tex. So I'm like, I went to my big bros, and like, yo, listen, homie, I'm going in. They violated. They got a little too close for comfort. We got it. All I need is that joint that holds a lot. And he gave me two choices: the Tech 9 with the air hose, and the Tech 9 without the air hose. Took the one without the air hose because the one with the air hose, I'm unfamiliar with it, and it was a little bit more updated, and I wasn't familiar with it. So I was like, give me that right there, the traditional Tech 9, the jamming shit, but I'm familiar with that. I can rock with that. And let me get that ninja suit that you got in your closet. So the ninja suit. Now, let me explain something to you. I'm not a plagiarist. I don't take credit for shit that I didn't come up with or whatever. And then when I do talk about something that I did, whatever, I'm always going to give just credit where it's deserved. My big homie put me on to the ninja suit. Like, yo, and I thought that was the dumbest shit in the world. We had all sorts of disgusting and shit when we go to put work in. Wigs and dread wigs and mailman suits and all sorts of other different apparel that we could throw on to get us closer to the opposition. And when I remember when he first showed me that ninja suit, I was like, boy, that's the most goofiest, dumbest shit in the world. Fuck, we ain't Chinese. And I laughed at him. He was like, look, Salter, you bugging fuck up. This gonna put some work in, and they not gonna be able to little shoot. This is one of the best things to conceal your identity. So I remembered that. Now, when I go to this same dude to get that heat that I need to put that pain in the way I want to put it in, I said, yo, by the way, let me get that ninja suit and a pair of those black Reeboks. I didn't have no black Reeboks. He gave me the whole suit. So he dressed me up. To keep it a bean, my homie dressed me up. He gave me the sneakers, the ninja suit, and the Tech 9, and made sure it was a full clip.
Both of them techs is the same exact shit. It just looked completely different with that cooler attached to it with them holes.
You know about the cooler? I call it the air hose. I call it the air hose. You call it the cooler.
Yeah, it just it cools the gun down so that you could shoot more. That other shit without the cooler, that shit get burning hot.
Right, and so that's what it was. That was like. So that's funny too, because that's the story is when I finished with that, putting that work and threw that, I threw that unbeknownst to me, I threw that hot joint back in my body, in my waist and on my leg and all that to get up out of Dodge with it, and that shit burnt, seared skin off my leg, side of my nuts, paws, and all that.
That should be on fire after them 28 shots.
Like I said, I give credit where credit was due. I didn't come up with the ninja suit, but I definitely made it famous because before then I didn't hear about definitely not jumping out no tree. Definitely not jumping out no tree. And after that, it got real quiet in terms of that beat because the dudes realized the seriousness of it and the lengths that we was willing to take it to in order to secure the win.
And y'all was all still in Eastern District at the time?
Yeah, facts. And that was a heavy beef. That was a heavy beef. Dudes got touched on both sides. It's not just to say one side ran over the other and all that. Nah, they was young and up and coming like we were. They were out to make a name for themselves like we were, and they was letting their things go too. They was coming because I told you they came to my hood, so they had to come to my hood ready for action. If they writing in my building, and if they blaming and knocking shit down, so yeah, you know how the wars go, bro. It's back and forth until either motherfuckers celebrate, either motherfuckers go to jail and get pinched, or the right motherfuckers get knocked off. Because when we was coming up, there was no such thing as a white flag. We never, ever, in the history of our wars, raised the white flag, ever. And all of the beefs, all of the aggressive transactions that we partook in we never raised the white flag, never. We'd rather die before we raised the white flag of surrender. You know what I mean? It was because the way we was taught, the way I was taught coming up, it was like, you know what I mean? You never surrender. You might not win every battle, but a war rages on. So if you get your opportunity to hit, you hit hard and you make your presence felt, and you do what you do for not just that particular individual sex of ops you're dealing with, but for everybody else that's gonna come after that. Because you want to give them a reason to pause, have a second thought about, fucking with you and yours, and you and your people, because they know everything that's going with it.
So is that a generational thing between Bushwick and Sumner? Like, is it always problems between Bushwick and Sumner? Like after that in the 90s and stuff like that? Was it always problems with them dudes with other generations?
The 90s, I was locked up, so I'm not sure the 80s, 90s. After that, I was locked up, but from the stories that I've heard, those wars be over because they were so entrenched and so heavy, and then you know how it goes, bro. The animosity and the dislike builds up and turns into somewhat of hatred, especially if it's man downs involved. That goes on forever. So in some people's eyes, yeah, it did carry over. I can say for a fact that I know that it maybe not necessarily to the extent the way we was going at it, but it definitely transcended into pocket riff-raffs and pocket situations where it'd be, you know what I mean, you hear about a couple dudes from over here, some Bushwick dudes coming through, you know what I mean, with the younger generation, and they got beef with the dudes from the younger generation from my hood, and they coming through, hitting that dudes, hitting shit up, and that shit was still going on. I can't say for sure whether or not it's a direct cause or result of our situations, but I would be naive to say that our situations didn't play some part in that. You know what I mean? Because every hood puts on, bro. In every hood you have standout dudes that would be like hood celebrities that put on heavy for their hood and how they rep. You know what I mean? They hood. So in every project, you got dudes. So there's no projects that you could just completely run over, even if you think it was the softest projects in this section. It's still dudes in there that's gonna put on, and that's gonna put on like heavy hitters. Just as good as they get brought to them, they gonna give it back. So this was the era of putting on, homie. Back then in the 80s, you had to put on. You really had to put on.
Hey yo, you love what I'm doing on this channel? Feel free to send me a Cash App donation. That's the Cash App right there. Gen Pop fam, you heard? Get at me, Z-Lord. As we know, it's a lot of hoods in New York City. And some of those hoods are notorious. And we gonna learn the histories of some of these hoods on this channel. You will never find content like this on any channel on YouTube. We different over here. You want that real New York history, that real Brooklyn history. It's here. They hate me because they think I got a monopoly on the game. But I just work harder. While they sleeping, I'm in the gym shooting. And that's why they mad. LAZ. Brooklyn legacy, baby. I'm back on this grind.
then we knew we was going to prison, right? And we was looking forward to that day that we went to prison, because our mentality was, yeah, we gonna go to jail, we gonna bust our guns in jail the same way we busting our guns in the streets, we gonna build our reputation, everybody gonna know about us, we gonna wear all our jewelry and our shine, we ain't never, you know what I mean, taking no shorts and all that. So because all of the dudes that came before me, that came home from prison, that used to sit down in the hoods with us and tell us those war stories about up top, that intrigued us so much to the point where we was like, oh, no, we could do that. We could live in jail. We could, you know what I mean? We putting some. See, that was the thing too, bro. Like, falling by the wayside, man. If you was a thug in the street, right, and then you went to jail and you was pussy in jail, nah, bro, that wasn't flying. That's not how it's supposed to go. So we was like standing on everything, meaning, however, if we was putting in work in the streets and thugging and doing whatever we was doing in the streets, and when we got behind that wall, no matter what wall it was, fucking Rikers Island, skin joints are up top in the mountains, feds, whatever, we was carrying that same energy, and we was gonna put on behind the wall the same way that we put on in the streets. Bro, we used to sit down on the bench in Sunday Projects and talk about how when we went to jail, how we was gonna run shit. It's crazy, it's sad.
You talking about adolescent days, like talking about C-74?
Yeah, I'm talking about because when we was having these conversations, we were adolescents. We weren't adults. We weren't of the age to be placed in adult facilities. We were still under the age of 18.
So what happened? What happened? How you ended up in C-74 for your first time ever?
So my first joint, the first time I went to C-74, you know what I mean, involved like a situation that, you know what I mean, that's a type of man down type of situation that we gonna have to leave over there. But it transcended from actually that's not correct, because that situation where they tried to put that on me, that wasn't even a C-74 situation. That might have been a Spofford situation leading up to C-74, but I remember the first time I went to C-74 was for robberies, right? So you from Brooklyn, so I'm not quite sure, you know, you're a little younger, so I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with the phrase that a Brooklyn's person back in them days, a Brooklyn's person's first love and their first introduction into the street game was through robberies. So my first introduction into real crime, not the little kitty petty shit, but the real crime was like robberies, you know, pulling out that stick, putting it in their face, and, you know, and taking what they had, or, you know, so that was my first introduction to crime on the bigger stage, where I got pinched and ended up in C-74 and then getting bailed out. Right.
Where you caught that robbery at, though? Around Sumner?
Everything was around Sumner, bro, because that was where I was from. So when we were young, we didn't have cars at that time unless we were stealing them. And we were stealing cars to go put that work in. But we didn't have cars at that time, so everything was on foot patrol. That's what we called it back then, foot patrol. We would arm up and go on foot patrol through various neighborhoods within walking and running distance, because you always wanted to, back then we was young, so we had a lot of energy and endurance, so we always wanted to not stray too far from where we thought we couldn't outrun the police. You know what I mean? If the police got on our ass, we wanted to be able to take the foot chase and get away. So my first joint was actually it was on Grand Avenue. Actually, yeah, we ran up in the sneaker store and backed the whole sneaker store down and robbed the whole joint. You know what I mean? Had the open sign in it, walked in there, turned the open sign to the closed sign, and actually a couple of motherfuckers was trying to walk in the store when we walked in. Backed out the hammer, pushed them out, excuse me, turned the sign from open to closed, like they closed right now. And then we did what we did. That was some wild, reckless shit, bro. To think of some of the shit that we did and the audacity in which we did those things was...
Did dudes get the money, though?
The money, listen, homie, we took not only did we get the money, we got the money, the cash register, and fucking mad sneakers. You know what I mean? Because it was a sneaker store. So we went in there, to rob the establishment of the money, everything that the people had in there, the workers or whatever, and sneakers. Yo, homie, go back in there and get me such and such and such and such in a size, whatever, because there was a few of us, about 6 or 7 of us, and we all got the sizes and all that, and we walked about that bitch with the sneakers, the shoes, the money out the register, and all sorts of shit, and kept it pushing. And the wild shit was, so you never know who might know you, who might recognize you, right? So at that time, I think I was probably going to Eastern District High School, I think I was going to Eastern District High School, because the way I got pinched was that it was a black cat inside that store, and the cat that was inside that store went to high school with me. In the early part, he went to Eastern District with me, and he told, I guess once we left, he told the store owners, his bosses, whatever, that, I know that dude, whatever his name is now, he's from over there, such and such. He went to school with me, and then that was how they eventually, once they get that information, it's just a process of, whatever the police do during the investigation before they eventually catch up to you.
Yeah, I heard Eastern District was out of control back in the days.
Eastern District was all the way out of control, and this was back in the early 80s, and this is where, I met. So back then, it was, when we was in our Eastern District days running around and doing our crimes and shit, it was, remember I told you I'm from Sumner, and in the close proximity was Sumner, Tompkins across the street, and then across the street from Tompkins, down the block is Marcy. So there was a lot of Sumner, Tompkins, Marcy dudes in Eastern District, as well as, Williamsburg, Bull Rinkin, Cooper Projects, and the like. So at that time, this was around the time when Sumner and Sumner, Tompkins, and Marcy was we was all together. We was all running around together. And that's how, we get the stories with the little homie Shoe in there and the little homie Tilo. God bless the dead Tilo. God bless the dead homie Shoe too. So, all those stories, that's where we all came up together, when we got together and started formulating bonds and run around on crime sprees. We used to run, back then it was a thing at that time where dudes was robbing trains, like whole trains. Like you get on a train and rob the whole train from the first car all the way down to the last car. And that's the double G train, the GG train. And we did a lot of terrorizing on that double G train. A lot of young, ignorant minded stuff, man. You're making bones and you're trying to figure out, ways to come up and shit. And, and like I said, a Brooklyn person's first law of coming up, when I was coming up, was robbery, bro. Robbery with the razor, robbery with the knife, it was robbery.
Yeah, like, we spoke about this before on the channel. Like, what a lot of people don't know is that, like uptown, drugs may be a trade that they use to get money, but in Brooklyn, the common trade is robbery. So it's like you in Brooklyn, you kind of taught to rob at a young age, and it's not even nothing personal. It's a straight trade, like getting an electric certificate or a floor covering certificate. Dudes be learning how to rob in Brooklyn at a young age.
So Brooklyn borders Queens borders Brooklyn. We're in close proximity to each other, the same way as Manhattan and the Bronx are in close proximity to each other. So the way Brooklyn was they used to always call us the grimy dudes and all that. You can't trust Brooklyn cats because they turn on you, rob you, whatever. The Queens dudes was into the trade, drug trade, getting money, like the Cats and all of them dudes, Fat Cat and all them teams. So Queens was getting money, Brooklyn was doing robberies, Manhattan was getting money, and then the Bronx dudes was like us. So to me, the Bronx dudes was more like Brooklyn dudes with respect to how they was giving it up and their means of going after getting money. You hear about some of the stories of some of the Bronx legends. They too came up from, busting a gun and taking shit from people. Whereas a lot of the Queens cats probably before, you know what I mean, the drug trade blew up so much, maybe robberies might have been, you know, their forte, but Queens was getting money on the trade. Manhattan was getting money on the trade. Bronx was doing their thing as far as taking shit from what I knew, but Brooklyn dudes just grew up robbing shit. All the older dudes before us taught us to rob, like you said, by telling us the story. It's not like they necessarily took us by our hand, put a gun in our joint and said, yo, here, go do this. Nah, what they did was they told us those war stories. And then, you know, we hearing that shit like, oh shit, that's how you get money? All right, cool. Let me get it done. I remember how I, you know, scraped up my little ones, you know, to buy my first gun. And I felt like once I got that first gun, I was taking over the world. I felt invincible. That was the ignorance of youth. But, you know, in Brooklyn, we felt we needed guns. So when we got guns, we would take our guns and look for other motherfuckers that we thought had guns to rob them for their guns. Because, you know, what the gun is, whoever get it out first. You know what I mean? You could be a mad gun buster or whatever, but if the other man got the draw on you, there's nothing you could do. So we used to practice getting the draw on people first. That's where you get, you know, the story about dudes from Sumner was knocking police out and taking hammers, or it wasn't just that, backing out hammers and taking hammers. That's what we was famous for. When we was coming up, we was taking your gun. If we knew you had a gun, we was taking that. If you was slipping, we was taking your gun. Funny story. Here's a funny story before, you know, before I stop and go through what I gotta do. Funny story was, in the midst of, you know, of us coming up and doing our shit, we, like I said, we down in Sumner, so Fort Greene and Farragut, you know, close to each other in proximity. My man Tracy, he wasn't my man initially when we first met, but my man Tracy, God bless his dead, from out of Farragut, Tracy Washington, got a brother named Dawn, a brother named Squirrel. My man, you know, now I could call him my man because we got tight before he passed. But he was down in my projects with one of my old heads, and I think he was with this cat named Crime or somebody else. But long story short, I was with my homie, my Cody Hash, and you know, so back then it was, all right, if you came down to the hood, right, to see somebody, the person that you came to see, if you wasn't from our hood, had to have been of some sort of status or held some sort of status so that they would prevent other dudes from trying to get at, you know, outsiders, because that's, you know, that's the way it is. Outsiders don't like, I mean, people from hoods don't like outsiders coming to their hoods. So if dudes come in your hood, first thing you do is scheming on them. So Tracy and I think it was Crime, I don't know, but Tracy and whoever he was with, Tracy Washington, he was coming through the P's, and me and Hash was walking through the P's at the same time, and Tracy was with he was going to holler at one of my older heads. So now we see them, they see us, so we like, oh shit, who the fuck is them? New dudes, they was kind of flying all that little chain and all that. So now imagine this, man, we saddle up next to them. So it's let's say it's me on the far right, let's say it's Hash on my closest left. So Hash's closest left, which would have been Tracy's right, was Tracy, and then it was the little dude that Tracy was with. So now we side by side. Imagine 4 dudes walking side by side, right? And we everybody got their hand on their waist. Everybody holding the joint. So because they was on point. Tracy was a street dude. He was hip to the game. He knew how we was giving up. And Sumner, if he didn't know us per se, he heard about dudes from Sumner. He knew how they played, so he was on point. So he had his hand on his gat. The little dude with him was reaching. Me and Hash had our hand on our joints, and we all walking slow, right? So we trying to walk slow so they could get in front of us a little bit so we could back out. He was not. I love Tracy, man. Rest in peace, that's my little homie. He was not having it. He was on point. Every time we slowed up, he slowed up. So we slowed up so much now that the person that Tracy and them was coming to see, my older head that was in front of us, he didn't even realize that we was falling in the back behind him about to go at it with each other because he wasn't paying no attention. He walking and he's still talking, thinking he talking to us. Behind him, he turns around. This was the funniest shit. He turns around and sees us at least several paces behind him, and he immediately peeped what was going on. So he turned back around, continued to walk, and I guess he thought about it, and he kind of like turned around and then came back towards all of us and kind of like put himself in the middle. He didn't say no words like, yo, chill, and nah, be easy. He didn't say none of that. He just put himself in the center of us and like kind of like diffuse the situation because nobody was going to shoot or do nothing through him. So he put himself in the mix and talked to them. And it's like, yo, man, I'm going to get up with y'all later when I come down to Fort Greene or whatever. And he told them to bounce. And he kept us there with him while they bounced. So that was like, you know what I mean, an interesting little situation that we had with the homie. And I didn't even know who he was. But my homie told us, like, yo, nah, son, we was like, yo, boy, what you doing? We was about to get them niggas. He's like, nah, y'all wasn't about to get them niggas. Y'all would have had to kill them or they was going to kill y'all because everybody had their hand on their joint and they was on point. And that's my son from down to such and such. And we was like, oh, damn, bro, we didn't know. You ain't tell us. You know, dudes just come in the hood. We all robbing everything. So, you know, that's how that shit went. And it was a lot of so that story, I told you that story to tell you, to give you insight how dudes first met. So a lot of times, a lot of the dudes from Brooklyn that was heavy into the street game and whose name was resonating and they was doing something, they kind of met through controversy at first, and then later on either became cool or ended up becoming mortal enemies and you know, doing whatever they did to each other whenever they got an opportunity to. But some of the closest individuals that I've ever come across and in my life that I maintain a strong relationship and a bond with, that happened through controversy, through us having to go at it with each other, whether it be shootouts and, you know what I mean, and then other dudes intervening, and then we sitting down and realizing that then we might be stronger as a unit as opposed to being apart, going at each other. That's how a lot of same shit with Killer Ben. We'll get to that stuff later. That's another one of my little comrades, my little homies. We didn't start off as friends and as associates, but we ended up that way before his passing. That was one of my main comrades that I would put work in for. At the drop of a hat, everybody knew that. He did the same for me. You know what I mean? So, like, when we talk about some of these stories, homie, it's a lot, bro. It's a lot with this Brooklyn history. A lot of dudes that you know, you might have had on your joint or heard stories about. We were all, again, interconnected and intertwined at some point or period of time and shit, bro.
So when you said you got locked up for that sneaker store robbery, you said you went to the island for the first time, but you bailed out quick?
Yeah. So when I caught the sneaker store robbery, whatever, I don't know how old I was, probably like 15, 16, 17, some shit like that. Went to the Island 4 building. I think I went to Mall 5, whatever the reception house was back then, in the 80s, whatever. I think I went to Mall 5 and shit. So I stayed on the island briefly, like a week or two. I was able to go to the yard, you know what I mean, see all the homies in the yard. There's a bunch of cats in there at that time, trying to think who was on the island back then when I first went through. I think my little man Huck from Marcy was there. That was the first time I ever seen anybody ride a skateboard and shit. I think they had skateboards in the 4 building, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he was in the yard on a skateboard or some shit. I don't know. He was riding on something in that yard when I first went to that yard in the 4 building. Yeah, so this was around 85, 86. So I think Majesty from my projects was in the 4 building at that time too. Matter of fact, I know Majesty was in the 4 building because we had a conversation about some things. But yeah, so that time that I went to the fall building and shit, I think I stayed maybe a week or two. I think I was in Mod 5, if I'm not mistaken. I think Mod 5 might have been I don't know what they called it back then, the New Jack House, or when you first coming through or whatever. So I think I stayed in Mod 5. If not, I went to another population house from there, and then I bailed out and shit. So when I bailed out, you know what I mean, then it was back to that type of business as usual that we was doing in the streets, you know what I mean, running around and all that. So, and I didn't go back to the can until 1986, 87. But by that time, when I went back to the camp for the case that I caught, that I would end up spending a significant time in prison for, I guess I was classified as an adult, and they sent me to the Brooklyn house. I didn't go to Rikers Island. They sent me to the Brooklyn house. They sent all my co-defendants. I had about 5-6 co-defendants. They sent all my co-defendants to C-74 because I guess they was under the age of 18 or whatever, or 17, whatever the age was. They was under the age of where they could be housed as adults. After they had them C-74 adolescent, I went to the Brooklyn house. I didn't go to the island until like several months after being in the Brooklyn house for a while on a couple different floors. Met a lot of solid dudes. Met a lot of dudes in the Brooklyn house that was heavy in them prison stories. A lot of people prison stories. A lot of cats was in the Brooklyn house.
What years you talking about? Like,
the year I'm talking about that I was in the Brooklyn house, this would have to been in 1987, 86, 87. One of them 2 years, because I had just probably turned like 17 or 18, whatever the year the law was back then that classified you as an adult and shipped you over to where the them grown ass men was. That's how old I was. So that was like I said, that was like 1986, 1987.
It was Brooklyn house wild, or it was laid back compared to the island?
Nothing is wild compared to the island, homie. I mean, prison in and of itself gets wild. It gets crazy in any prison. It doesn't make a difference necessarily where it's located at. It's just the whatever the nature of the individuals that they have incarcerated at that particular prison at the time. And when I was in the Brooklyn house at that time, it was lit. It was wild. It was definitely lit. Who was in there? Who's in there with me back then? Tuck was in there. Tuck from the East, Brownsville, East New York, wherever Tuck was from. Tuck was with me in the Brooklyn house back then. Who else, man? My man Bond. I think that Bond is Squirrel and Tracy, older brother. We was in the Brooklyn house together. I think on the 9th floor. My homies from my hood, Hickey Doo. You know what I mean? We call him Daddy O. My man Hicks and his brother Agard. They was in the Brooklyn house at that time. I think Allah Just was in the Brooklyn house at that time. I know for a fact Allah Just was in the Brooklyn house at that time because we all went to HDN together. Spanish dude named Hound Dog. You'll hear about him in some of my stories moving forward. Hound Dog was a definite influence in my life. That was an individual that I had a lot of respect for, and I learned a lot of things in the early parts of my bed, young, coming up, fucking with Hound Dog. Matter of fact, with Tuck in the Brooklyn house, back in 86, 87, when I was with Tuck in the Brooklyn house, Tuck was the one that taught me how to work out. When you first go to prison, homie, prison is about, a lot of times dudes, while they're in prison, they get in shape and they stay in shape. They get introduced to, working out. So you have to get introduced to working out from somebody. So the first time I really actually started working out and got introduced to working out, that was with Tut. Yep, that's a whole fact. That was with Tut. He taught me how to do the push-ups with the decks of cards. I don't know if you ever did that with the decks of cards. You got like 2 or 3 decks of cards, and you turn over like 3 cards, and the face cards was worth like 10 or 15 push-ups, and then whatever other the number cards were, that's what did push-ups. So I was frail too back then, lads. I was like only 17, 18. My little frail ass, like, nah, just turn over two cards. You do 2 at a time. I'm like, in my mind, nah, boy, you doing 3. Now, unbeknownst to me, Tuck been doing the jail shit for a minute, so his body was accustomed through that muscle memory of him being able to do that, those type of workouts, you know what I mean, at that level. But you know, when you're young, you feel like you could do whatever the next person do. Man, I turned over like 3 or 4 cars. I think I got about 3 face cards and a 9 or some shit like that. That'd have been about, what, 15 times 3 is about 45 plus, right there I couldn't do like no 50, 60 piece. So I did about 12 push-ups. My arms started shaking, fell on my face. Tuck was like, listen, bro, you gotta gradually build up into this workout shit. You gotta work your way into it. You can't just think you could just, you know what I mean, knock all them push-outs out at one time and all that. And then we used to go upstairs to the little gym or whatever the fuck they had in the Brooklyn house, whatever it was called, gym yard or whatever. I know it was indoors. They had the little weights or whatever in there. And I didn't get introduced to the weights at that time. Tuck had me doing pull-ups and shit. So we was doing pull-ups. Back then I could only do 3 pull-ups. Lads, that shit was crazy weird. Up there shaking, legs kicking and all that. So that's why I learned about proper form and all that. He was like, nah, homie, none of them shits count. You was supposed to do 5, you did 1.5 clean. The rest of that shit was shaky money. So take about 30 seconds to 60 seconds, get back up there and give clean money. So that's how I learned about, you know what I mean, proper form with respect to push-ups and pull-ups and things of that nature. But yeah, the Brooklyn house was interesting. I stayed there for like, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 months. You know what I mean? I kept getting into a lot of fights and shit. I didn't get into my razor and my knife game in the Brooklyn house because, like, you know what I mean, I was just coming through, so I didn't have access to that. I didn't even know dudes was really playing with those like that until I got, you know what I mean, schooled by other individuals who was in prison for longer periods of time, and they was basically breaking down the ropes of prison to me and how it went. That was, back then I was Tuck and a Hound Dog. Matter of fact, I think we was all on the 5th floor. If I'm not mistaken, me, Tuck, Hound Dog, and myself, and there was a few other cats that was in my house. We was on the 5th floor. I think it was the 5th floor, but you know how the fact checkers will do. They'll check into it, and then, you know what I mean, it'll come out. I guess what you said last, leave it in the comments.
Straight up. Leave it in the comments if you know which floor it was.
Right, but yeah, that's when that's where I met Hound Dog, that Spanish cat from out of Brooklyn, Puerto Rican dude from out of Brooklyn. Yeah, I think he had like a couple missing fingers or whatever, couple nubs, but yeah, he was definitely a beast. You know what I mean? He was older, so this is my young mind paying attention to everything, seeing how these dudes is bidding and jailing. This is the first time I had to learn about phone time and fighting for phone. You know what I mean? I had to fight for my little 30-minute phone time that dude, you know what I mean, that dudes gave me when I came through and shit. So back then, this how it was, right? Back
you
then.
Mean you had to fight somebody that for that 30 minutes, or just fight somebody to prove that you was worthy of the 30 minutes?
No, I'm gonna show you. I'm about to break it down to you exactly how it went back then. So it could have gone several ways. You could fight somebody that has time that you think that don't deserve the time. You could challenge them for their time, fight, knife, razor, whatever, however y'all do it. Y'all get it off for the time. Obviously, the winner is the person that's going to stay in the house and have the time. But back then, right, in the 80s and in Brooklyn, a lot of times your street reputation carried over with you when you went to the joint. So if you was up and in the street, banging it out, turning it up, putting that work in, laying shit down, whatever phrase you want to use, when you got to the joint, no matter which joint it was, Brooklyn House, Rikers Island, anywhere, 9 times out of 10 or more often than not, you were going to come across somebody that was from your hood, or somebody that knew about who you were, if you were repping like that had a phone and that was going to give you some slot time. So when I got to the 5th floor, I don't even remember who was running the phone, but it was an older dude, one of them older dudes, and they question you, where you from. So I guess based upon my answering of the questions, and he like, oh, yo, so you the little dude they call Black Knowledge from something. I heard about you, shorty. So this is what we gonna do. I'm gonna give you 30 minutes. Boom. But when I give you this 30 minutes, homie, that's your slot time. Meaning you got to hold it down. If you can't hold it down, and somebody come in here and take your time, then that's what it is. So I got my little 30 minutes, and some cat, I guess he came in there after me or whatever. He probably looked at me, thought I was sweet. Like, oh, this dude getting on at from 8 to 8:30, whatever, which that's prime slot time back then, whatever. And he, Spanish dude too. And he was like, yo, yeah, I want that time and shit. So he didn't really speak that much English and shit. So he I guess he stepped the Hound Dog and spoke to Hound Dog in Spanish. And Hound Dog came to me in a little day room, I guess, yeah, a little slash mess hall shit, whatever, because you in the Brooklyn house, you didn't go nowhere to mess halls and all that. You stayed on your floor and got fed on your floor, whatever. So Hound Dog came up to me like, yo, Nas, listen, man, this dude he wants your slot time. And he want to know what you want to do for your slot time. And I'm like, who? And he pointed out to the dude, whatever, Spanish dude, like probably my size, whatever, height, whatever, a little bit older than me, whatever. So I was like, all right, well, yeah, tell him we gonna get busy for this slot time. What we doing? Where we going? So again, I'm just learning the prison systems and all that. So the homies was like, all right, we gonna go upstairs in the back and fight in the cell. You know what I mean? Your cell, whoever's cell. We had cells in the Brooklyn house at that time. 2 tiers, if I'm not mistaken. Bottom tier, top tier. So on the 5th floor, I was to the left, whatever side that was, A, B, C, or whatever. I was on that left side, 5th floor, top tier. We went upstairs, you know what I mean, and we started shaking on the gallery right there in the back. I was in the back waiting for him. He came to the back, and let me explain something to you too. When I finish telling you the story, I'm a break it down about the jewels that was broken down to me by Hound Dog and Tut. They was both there for that fight. So boom, we fighting. You know what I mean? Me and the dude, we shaking out. We young, wild, throwing punches everywhere. We shaking out. We rumbling, getting it on on the tier. So the fight balls over into the cell. So I kind of like, I don't know, we falling or whatever. So I landed on top of him on the bed. Like, so when I landed on top of him, you know how I'm trying to position my body so I could, and you know when you get on top of somebody, you go in. My homie had other plans, so he bit me. You know what I mean? He bit a hold of my eye, my left eye. I'll never forget. He had the top portion where my eyebrow is, and the lower portion bit in between his teeth, like I mean in his mouth, in like a pit bull lock. So if I couldn't pull away or nothing, because if I'd have pulled away, that meat paws would have been, he'd have ripped that off and it would have been inside of his mouth and shit. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, this nigga fucking biting me. And I'm trying to punch him in his wrist. So a nigga Tut running the cell, and it was a one-on-one, right? So it wasn't back then it was a one-on-one for the phone. Wasn't nobody jumping in. Win, lose, or draw, you had to fight for your own slot time of your own abilities. You know what I mean? Couldn't nobody help you. That's how it was at that particular time. So me and boy fighting, he biting me in my eye. He got my shit in the pit bull lock. My eyes bleeding and shit. The blood going his mouth and shit, going in my eye. I'm trying to punch him in his ribs and shit. Tuck runs in the room and like tries to grab me to pull me off him. But he like, yo, he biting. Get him off him. So I'm telling Tut, he pulling me, but I'm like, yo, boy, stop pulling me, because as you pulling me, this nigga teeth is locking down harder, and you know what I mean, you about to pull my whole eyeball out of socket. So Hound Dog, I'll never forget this, homie. Hound Dog said, yo, Tuck, move, get out the way. So Hound Dog took his shirt off and shit and ran in the cell, and he jumped on the bed. Man, we fighting on the bed. He jumped on the bed in the midst of us and was saying something to the boy in Spanish, like I don't know, basically whatever. If you don't let him go, I'm a, you know what I mean, do something to you or whatever. So he ended up letting. So before he let me go, they was like, yo, Nas, when he let you go, don't swing. And Hound Dog was like, yo, Nas, don't swing, because I don't want you to hit me, bro. If you hit me and you, all of us gonna be in here rumbling. So I know you mad, but when he let you go, don't swing. Because I was on top of him still. So I'm like, all right. So he let me go, you know what I mean? They pulled me back, my shit leaking. So they like, yo, go, you know what I mean, go close up the blood. I mean, stop the blood. You don't want the police to see the blood because they see you bleeding. you know what I mean, they taking you up out of there thinking somebody did something to you. So I went to my cell, stopped up the blood or whatever, tissue, and then I'm like, all right, now let's go. We back to round 2, you know what I mean? Because no, so now I know he a biter. So I'm like, all right, I know how I'm gonna deal with him a little bit differently. So I'm like, all right, told Hound, yo, go get him. Talk to him Spanish, tell him, come on, let's go round 2. Boy didn't want no more sauce. He like, nah. He told Hound though, he said, nah, I don't want to fight him no more. I'm not fighting him because he don't quit. He's not gonna stop. So he's like, he went to another dude and was like, I want to fight him for his time. So the other dude saw me and him fighting, saw how he bit me in his eye, and my eye, and the other dude was like, nah, I ain't fighting that wild nigga. He could have the phone time. So that was crazy. That I fought for my shit, got my eye bit up, but beat the motherfucker into not wanting to fight no more. But he was determined to get some phone time, so he went to the next dude that he thought was weak and was like, yo, I want to fight you. That dude bitched up, said, nah, I don't want to fight, and he got him some phone time. So the lesson that I learned in that situation right there was, because I'm still uptight, my eye, you know what I mean, I wanted to do something. I'm like, nah, he can't stay here, you know what I mean? Somebody give me a joint or something so I could blast him and get him the fuck out of here. And that's when Tut and Hound Dog was like, yo, nah, homie. He sat me down and kind of broke it down, like in terms of, you know what I mean, how the shit go. Like, listen, homie, you did your thing. He bit you in your eye bleeding, all that, but technically you won because he quit and he didn't want to fight no more. So, like, at the end of the day, you know, on some respect shit, you know what I mean? We gotta let him stay because he stepped to somebody for their phone time and one fight. Like, that shit was too political for me. Like, I ain't get it, but I had to respect it because those was, you know what I mean, those were the older dudes that was running the house, you know what I mean, and you know, they had you know what I mean, situation on how they situated it, whatever. And like I said, I knew Tuck from the streets and shit. I respected him as like like one of my old heads and shit, and Hound Dog was schooling me the shit. So they was basically like, yeah, bro, because it could have went any different way. You know, it was supposed to be a fair fight, a one-on-one fight, but you know, y'all fighting, but you know, homie could have had a razor or a joint somewhere and pulled it out. So like that let me know, like, okay, so basically, even if it's a one-on-one, everything goes. Like, you know what I mean? In terms, I can bite in, joint pulling, kicking, and everything goes because I guess it's all about survival. You dig? You know what I mean? So everything, so that was a lesson for me right there. That very first fight that I had over the phone was a lesson. Like, all right, boy, when you in these situations, then you gotta bring your all and your best because everything goes, and you might not be on the winning side of one of these situations. So you want to make sure you do everything you can do to be on the winning side. You dig? First time I ever got bit in a fight, and I still got the scar to this day to prove it. I still got the scar above my left eyebrow. Yeah, he bit the shit out of me, homie. And he was growling, spit, salivating all out of his mouth. He was making noise. He was shaking his head and shit like a whole dog. I couldn't believe that shit. That shit was crazy. He was not letting me go because I was fucking his ass up. And I guess his idea was like, if I let this man go and he get atop me freely with them arms, he gonna go to work. Yeah,
you know.
He bit the shit out of me. He was like, it's not going down today, black man. He bit the shit out of me like a whole fucking dog. And I was like, man, if I ever see this shit anywhere, I'm tossing him. But they was like, nah, homie, you know, you still won, even though he bit your eye, but you still won because he quit. So, you know, take that as a victory and you know, you got your phone time and leave it alone. And it was funny too because, you know what I mean, he had the phone time like a little bit before me, so a couple times it like ran into right around my time and shit. And you know, he had, you know, when you get off the phone from your slot time, you hand the phone over to the next dude, you know that's coming, who slot time it is and shit. So maybe on one or two occasions and shit, he handed me the phone. So maybe like after about a couple weeks, a month, you know, he probably handed me the phone and shit. And when he handed me the phone, he nodded his head, you know, with a little smile on his face up and down, like in a respectful manner, because he didn't speak English. So I guess that was his way of acknowledging me, like, all right, here you go, homie, it's your time, you know. I see you a stand-up dude, here you go, you deserve to be on this phone. Like, do your thing. And, you know, I you know, I just, I would just take the phone, whatever. I still looked at him. I was a dude that like Harvard beefs and shit. Like, you know what I mean? If I get into a beef with you and we gotta take it there, if I don't get off the way I feel I should have got off, then I'm gonna be harboring resentment and plotting on ways to sneak you and get you back. Like, you know what I mean? Cut your throat when you ain't looking, or stab you in your neck or the back of your head when you ain't paying attention. That's the type of, you know what I mean, time that I was on back then at that agency. And I had to, grow out of that shit. That was a crazy mentality, a crazy way of thinking, because, all that negative energy building up causes stress and, you know what I mean? All sorts of ailments and crazy different shit to the body. So, but I stayed in the Brooklyn house for a few months fighting and doing all sorts of wild shit. I think I broke the TV on the 9th floor. Like when I was when you in jail, you stay, in county jails anyway, you kind of stay current on what's going on in the streets and, through the phone. So I think I was on the 9th floor at the time. I think I got the news back then that my brother had got shot and shit in Marcy Projects. My little brother had got shot in Marcy Projects, and I think, they said that, you know how the dudes always get the information incorrect, I guess, as it goes down the line. So it might start off with the first 1 or 2 people accurate, but by the time it gets to the 10th, 11th, 12th person, it trickles down to you, the story changes a lot. So I said my brother had got shot in Marcy, and the story, the way it got to me was that he had died. You know what I mean? So when I heard that news, I just flipped out. I just lost it. I wigged out. That's what happened. I wigged out, and the TVs was kind of up, elevated high, and I was, probably going through my emotions, crying, spazzing out. I snatched the TV off the thing, slammed it, throwing shit around. I was just, going through it. That's all I knew on how to release that anger and frustration, because I'm in my mind, I'm like, damn, somebody just killed my little brother, and I'm not out there to, put that pain in. So somebody somewhere got to feel I was chasing dudes with the TV piece. Now, if I'm not mistaken, my man Bond from Farragut was there. I think Squirrel and Tracy brother. I think he kind of like calmed me down, grabbed me up, and dragged me in the cell, like literally sat on top of me and shit. Probably was crying or whatever. And I guess he was trying to keep me in the cell so I wouldn't get knocked by the police. But I think the police was looking into the block, saw me spazzing, throwing TVs, chasing dudes, acting crazy. So the police came, opened the gate, came in there, and they took me out of there and shit. And I think they took me down to the psych ward. That's what they did. They put me in a psych floor, whatever the fuck that shit was. They put me on a psych floor where they took my laces to my sneakers, some wild shit, had me on some suicide watch to see if I was going to do something to myself or try to do something to somebody else. I think I stayed there a couple days or two, and I was beefing with the police and spazzing to get out of there because there wasn't nothing wrong with me. I wasn't crazy. They sent me up to another floor. And I think I went to the 7th floor. I don't know. I can't remember. Probably had a fight over there. So, and then they moved me to another floor. But what happened was, every time you get into an incident, they give you a ticket, write you up, whatever. And they give you, if they found you guilty of the incident, the allegations that they charged with in the incident report, you get time. So they was giving me big time every time that I was catching all these tickets, but I never went to the bank. So it was just accumulating. So one day they just packed me up and sent me on a draft, and I was downstairs in the pen going to the they said we was going on an overload to Rikers Island. So it was all the dudes it was big time. It was a bunch of us. It was myself, it was Hound Dog. It was a bunch of dudes that had accumulated Bing time. They didn't have no room in the Bing in the Brooklyn house, which is what they was telling us. So they was sending us to Rikers Island, and then we would go to the Bing once we get to Rikers Island, to whatever respective prison we was going to. So we got to Rikers Island. So I don't know, it's about 5, 6 of us. I couldn't remember everybody. The overload I remember we was down in the pen. I remember seeing a Lord Just in the pen. I remember Lord Just trying to cut a dude in the face while we was in the pen and shit. That shit was crazy. Then I remember going on the bus and we went in the building. They took us, they was taking dudes, dropping dudes off at a bunch of other buildings. But all the dudes that came from the Brooklyn house with me, we all went to HDM, and this shit was crazy. So we in HDM waiting to get processed and shit to get processed into the HDM system, and then waiting to go to the bank. So like I said, it was a bunch of us. It was 7 of us, 7, 8, 9 of us maybe, that went from the Brooklyn house all to HDM. So we was all in the bullpens. So now I'm listening to the stories of the dudes. They get no hype, like, yo, this is HDM, son. It get crazy in here. Niggas get killed in here on the regular. So, you gotta be on your A game and all that. Don't take no shorts. Don't let nobody disrespect you. You know what I mean? Anybody try to play with you, you gotta up it, turn it up. So, I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking of in terms of when I get out the thing, when I get the population, how I was supposed to carry it. But for whatever reason, homie, I don't know whatever reason it was, all 7 of us that was in the that was waiting to get processed to go to the Bing, it might have been more of us, they didn't send us to the Bing. They put us all in population in HDN. They said, yo, y'all get this set up, whatever, y'all go in the population. So they spread us out. I think it was 8, 9, if it was 7, 8, 9 of us, some of us went to 7 block, and then some of us went to 8 block, right, odd, even. In HDM, they had the size 1, 3, no, 1 block was the Bing, so they had 3, 5, and 7 on one side of the corridor, that long hallway. Then on the other side, they had 2, 4, 6, and 8. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, and 8, 3, 5, 7, 1 block. I believe at the time, if I'm not mistaken, 1A and 1B was the Bing. So yeah, but I got the HDM, boy. That was a whole different experience right there, lads. That HDM was different. Like house of detention for men. You know what I mean? Shout out to all the cats that ever been in HDM, man. House of detention for men on Rikers Island, and made it about that piece, because that was real prison right there, lads.
AKA hope you don't get murdered.
Oh, that's what they called it? That was another name which y'all called it later on?
Hell yeah. I was in HDM when it closed. It closed down in 99 because of the riot that popped off in my crib in 5 block, where, bro from Queens got stabbed and almost killed. You feel what I'm saying? And then for some reason the cells just, they was old, man. The cells just stopped. They used to have to manually open the cells, right, with the whole cables broke, and none of the cells would close, and they had to put us back in that shit after the riot. So we had to sleep in the bullpens, and then they couldn't fix the cells. They had to shut the whole HDM down. They just split everybody up and sent people to different buildings.
Hey, yo, if you can't live without this type of content, feel free to send me a Cash App donation. You're